Step into the heart of Kyoto and discover why Kinkaku-ji isn't just a temple. It's a shimmering legend wrapped in gold. A pavilion so dazzling, it's survived arson, centuries of secrets, and it still leaves visitors speechless. But is it overrated? Come with us as we visit Kinkaku-ji and we'll discuss if you should put it on your Kyoto itinerary. For this video, I will be comparing our first trip to Kinkaku-ji in April 2023 to our most recent trip in November 2024. Comparing the time we arrived, the season, and the amount of people that were there. But what is Kinkaku-ji? Kinkaku-ji, also known as the Golden Pavilion, it was also formerly known as Roku-onji, the temple that was the retirement villa of the shogun Ashikaga Yoshimitsu. According to his will, it became a Zen temple of the Rinzai sect after his death in 1408. The original Golden Pavilion is believed to have been constructed in 1399. Gold was an important addition to the pavilion because of its underlying meaning. The gold used was intended to mitigate and purify any pollution or negative thoughts and feelings towards death. Other than the symbolic meaning behind the gold leaf, the Muromachi period, which is when the Golden Pavilion was built, heavily relied on visual excesses as a demonstration of social status. So our first focus will be arrival time. When we visited in April 2023, we arrived early, like an hour before opening early. This was because we didn't check the opening times online. It was okay, we found a couple of vending machines on the approach and there was also somewhere to sit. So, it was a comfy wait. The advantage of this was that we were at the start of the line when the gates opened at 9 AM. There was a small crowd, nothing too chaotic, and apart from the first corner where you see the Golden Pavilion for the first time, the site did not feel overwhelmed by people. In contrast, in November 2024, we got to Kinkaku-ji about 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, and I highly do not recommend doing this. Tour groups had already arrived en masse. There was also a lot of international and internal tourists there, and you were just pushed from one place to another. On some of the more narrow paths, it did feel slightly claustrophobic. Also, with so many people there, people are just rushing to get the photos of the pavilion and then leaving. They're not taking the time to learn about the site and learn about the history of Kinkaku-ji. And that in itself can be also problematic. And you have to ask yourself the question, are you value adding to your trip or are you value adding to your Instagram/social media like flex? And if you're focused purely on just getting the photos and leaving, you have to ask yourself the question, why did you show up in the first place? Now would be a great time to talk more about crowds. A lot has been said over the last 12 months about the popularity of Kyoto with both internal and international tourists. And there was definitely a noticeable difference between our two trips. Whilst there was only a 90-minute to 2-hour difference between our arrival times between the two trips, there was a noticeable, almost suffocating difference. In 2023, we felt like we could take our time, just relax, enjoy the gardens. We knew that we weren't an obstacle for other people if we stopped and read a sign or took a bit more time at a corner on a path. 2024 was definitely a different matter, and it required a lot more patience, which is fine and an important skill that you need to develop whilst traveling anyway. To get an initial picture or footage of Golden Pavilion, like you were being jostled, you were being pushed around, and it just wasn't a pleasant experience. On the paths that wind through the gardens, you felt like you really couldn't stop, or you'd cause a build-up of a crowd behind you, which again is slightly frustrating. I think the biggest thing to remember is that regardless of where you're traveling, whether it's in Japan or elsewhere, there's probably going to be a bit of a crowd. Be patient, be polite, and do a bit of research to make sure that you avoid the peak of the crowds during the day. Whilst seasonality does play a part in some parts of Japan that you visit, it doesn't really with Kinkaku-ji. It is not that well known for viewing cherry blossoms during the spring. There is a couple of strategically placed cherry blossom trees there, but it's not why you go to Kinkaku-ji. In 2023, we missed the cherry blossom season in Kyoto. Spring had been quite warm, so the blossom was early. For November 2024, we managed to get there during the end of autumn. This meant the deciduous trees that were around Kinkaku-ji were starting to lose their leaves or were a really nice red or brown colour, which was quite enjoyable to see. I don't think visiting Kinkaku-ji is very dependent on a season, as the Golden Pavilion itself is quite striking and that's what draws your attention. If you do go like the middle of the day during summer, I would highly recommend that you have sunscreen on, you take a sun-blocking umbrella, and you are well hydrated. But apart from that, don't plan your vacation to Japan around what Kinkaku-ji will look like in a certain season. The reality is, if you are going to Kyoto once and you don't think you'll be coming back, definitely visit Kinkaku-ji. The Golden Pavilion is incredibly striking to see and you will be in absolute awe of it while you're there. As much as there is a lot of online discourse about, oh, don't go there because there's lots of people going there to visit, the reality is a lot of people want to visit because it's such an amazing thing to see. And there's nothing wrong with that. Regardless of the time that you go, whether it be the time of the day or the time of the year, be patient, be polite, and enjoy yourself. Here is a list of a couple of other things to keep in mind when you visit Kinkaku-ji. Entry to Kinkaku-ji is 500 yen for adults and 300 yen for school-aged children. The best way to access Kinkaku-ji is by bus. There is 6 different bus routes that stop near the temple, but the most frequent is the dreaded 205. This bus route is infamous for being packed full of locals and tourists for most of the day. So if you can afford it, grab a taxi. You'll thank me later. Honestly, it's worth the 1,000 to 2,000 yen, depending on where you're coming from, for not being squashed onto the busiest bus route in Kyoto. Whilst we preferred to go to Kinkaku-ji at the start of the day, mid to late afternoon is a good time as well, as most tourist groups have moved on for the day. As you get close to the exit of the temple grounds, there are some stalls with omiyage and souvenirs. The wasabi peanuts are a favourite of mine and I haven't been able to find a good substitute for them at home, so partake in any of their snacks with caution because you may not be able to find a good substitute at home and you'll crave them and be disappointed with any alternatives that you do find at home. There's lots of temples that are in walking distance of Kinkaku-ji as well, and they are absolutely worth visiting. One that I didn't see a lot of international tourists at was Ryoanji when we went. If you'd like to know more about Ryoanji, we have a video that you can watch up here. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like it or let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more Japan videos. Thanks for watching!